All right, let's get to this thing. Watch this.
House Republicans, led by Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana, have made over 40,000 hours of footage from January 6th public. Now, bits of the footage have been released online starting today. Anyone can set up an in-person appointment to view the footage in designated rooms within the Capitol. Johnson said that truth and transparency are critical in determining what really happened on January 6th, and that this decision will provide millions of Americans, criminal defendants, public interest organizations, and the media an ability to see themselves what happened that day rather.
As this goes on, I want you to see the interaction this gentleman has. Currently, he's handcuffed. Watch the interaction he has with the officers here.
Than having to rely upon the interpretations of a small group of government officials. Republicans were quick to praise Johnson's decision, some calling for further investigation into what really happened.
He just gave a pound to.
Yeah, he got a fist bump. Does that look like an insurrection? What?
Oh man, I'll tell you.
Generally, somebody who's trying to invade something doesn't get a fist bump from the opposing forces.
No. Unless we know each other. This is a sign that, hey, man, I know you, you know me, we're on the same team.
Right.
That's what this is saying. Maybe they work for the same people, you know? Just saying.
We'll get to that part.
Let's keep going.
Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took to X and posted, "I'm calling on Speaker Johnson to create a January 6th select committee. Releasing the tapes is not enough. There needs to be investigations and accountability for all of the lies, deceit, and lives ruined. Every member of the January 6th committee, Nancy Pelosi, the FBI, the DOJ, DC Police, Capitol Police, January 6th witnesses who lied, all need to be subpoenaed. Criminal referrals must be written and prosecutions must happen under a Trump DOJ. I've said it all along. MAGA did not do this." And former President Trump weighed in as well, writing on Truth Social, "Congratulations to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson for having the courage and fortitude to release all of the January 6th tapes, which will explicitly reveal what really happened on January 6th.
But some congressional Democrats think that the new footage will prove January 6th was as bad as they claim it was. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson of Florida wrote on X, "I was in the Capitol on January 6th, and all these extra hours of footage will show that January 6th was an insurrection. It will reveal thousands of extreme MAGA Republicans entering the Capitol illegally and violently in an attempt to overturn the 2020 election, period."
And sure, fine. Let's just see the footage and then let people decide for themselves. I appreciate her opinion that the footage is very bad and shows a lot of misbehavior and that she wants it released and people can judge for themselves. I very much agree with and appreciate Speaker Johnson's comments that the people ought to decide rather than leaving it up to a handful of government officials and experts to qualify what is on the tapes. I don't love the idea of having to shuffle into a room at the Capitol, visit the Capitol in order to see the footage. Can it just be, can we like Dropbox this stuff or something?
Yeah, I never quite understood what the security concerns that kept being raised were, that we were talking about Tucker Carlson playing some of the tapes. The Democratic Party's pushback was there's security concerns. What is it? That people are going to know the layout of the Capitol is not already public information?
Maybe people know it now. They went through it.
well, sure. But having tapes versus like somebody's day of knowledge that they retain, I think are two different things. If there are, in fact, secrets that aren't already publicly disclosed, fine. And I think, generally speaking, even if there is this obstacle to overcome, having to come and watch the tapes in person, it is important to make them available, most crucially for those who've been charged with crimes relating to J6. I would hope that criminal defendants would have had access to this stuff anyway, because it's potentially exculpatory information. That's the most important thing, whether or not folks who were seemingly allowed to come through, almost led or ushered through by police officers, were charged with breaking and entering, basically, in illegal activity and trespassing, when the police official, the Capitol Police, were indicating that they were allowed to be there. That is a really important issue. What I'm a little confused by, though, is this attempt, I think, to wholesale shift the narrative, just because, as the videos demonstrate, some people who attended the January 6th event were allowed voluntarily into the Capitol doesn't mean that we all haven't also seen videos
Pause.
of protesters breaking windows.
Keep in mind what she just said. Some people were voluntarily allowed into the Capitol. Now, bring up the GIF that I sent you.
This one here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Watch what the officer is doing. Waving them in. She's ushering them in.
Wow,
Like, really?
that's a good point. Well, but not only that, we have this one inside the Capitol. This is on Twitter as well.
Yeah. And they showed this at the beginning, where it's like a tour group being led through the Capitol.
So these are the people who are trying to overturn the government.
Yeah.
Not a single weapon is in sight.
No.
They're taking pictures.
They
have
look
their-
so vicious.
These cops, listen, they're just talking to each other. Like, that doesn't look like there's no fear.
Yeah. This is what somebody got shot over. Let's not forget that fact.
Wow. But we're gonna keep listening to these two. Let's keep going.
Was the horrible video of the one protester who was shot by the police as they were trying to break down that window. There were multiple entry points into the Capitol that were absolutely done by force. So there cannot be a whole narrative shift that nobody at the Capitol knew that they were not supposed to be engaging in that behavior.
Yeah, we're not very far apart on this at all. I agree. I was there, as I've said many times on the show. I witnessed people smashing windows, fighting with the police, clearly breaking rules that they knew they couldn't do that. At the same time, most of the people there were engaged in First Amendment protected political activity. You don't have to agree with them, but they had every right to do it. They had every right to be there. And then we have seen from a lot of this interior footage that there are police doing nothing as some of the people walk down the corridors. Those people might have had every expectation that they were not violating any particular rule at that point, that they were welcome to be there. Anyone who smashed a window, who defaced property, who wrestled with police officers, knew you were breaking a law and should be held accountable for that. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem, obviously, with these broader kind of this terrorism enhancement charges that a lot of people, including people who weren't even there, some of these Proud Boy leaders got, which are like multiple decades long sentences based on the actions of people in that building. And it is important then to understand what was really happening in that building was a substantial part of it, people who took their First Amendment protest into the building after the smashing had already taken place and did not know that they shouldn't be there. It does start to change the perspective a little bit without, changing the whole, no, they shouldn't have done it. It was a very embarrassing day for our nation, that activity. But the liberal obsession with January 6th, you hear that it's as bad as 9/11. I mean, that's what they said, and they were trying to sentence these Proud Boys people. That came out that's what the prosecutor said. This is a terrorist attack like 9/11, and the judge said it's like half a 9/11. And so they got
what, one person?
Right? No,
it's ridiculous. It's insulting, frankly, to 9/11. Yes. Not that I'm sitting here and wanting to die on that particular hill, but it's ridiculous. And it also does point to this fundamental, day one mistake that Democrats made, which was trying to make the Trump's error at that time about the actions of 1/6 instead of the weeks-long effort to actually overturn the election by falsifying documents, trying to submit a fake slate of electors, and all of those things. So we're supposed to culminate on January 6th, but we're much more substantive, I would say premeditated and purposeful, than this crowd, which some parts of it got widely out of control. And you can try to attribute blame to Donald Trump, but that's a much more thorny speech issue than the actions and behaviors that Trump and his co-conspirators were engaged in the weeks prior.
And you can blame him in a moral sense. You can say that it's his fault and I'm not going to vote for president again, or even that the actions taken with the impeachment were proper. Yeah. But there's a high bar to clear for speech. And for me, at the end of the day, it was speech. You don't have to agree with what he said, but it was not I don't think it meets the legal definition of incitement.
And the other issue is, remember what happened after this is that immediately all of the Democrats, including the progressive members of the squad who had just spent the past year or so talking about police bad behavior and defunding the police and those kinds of things, immediately voted to raise to fund the Capitol Police more. The very Capitol Police that apparently maybe were acting in dereliction of their duty and allowing protesters to come through the halls of Congress and completely failed to manage that event that day.
Yeah.
Now, and in some ways, very much to the detriment of people who ended up catching charges and having to serve jail time because the police weren't able to control the crowds and prevent people from coming into the building where some people continued to break the law.
Yes.
That it's wild to me. At the same time that progressives were putting all of this pressure on the public was putting all this pressure on progressive electeds to try to focus down on all of the issues that had become so central in the midst of the Bernie movement in the 2020 campaign. They said, no, we're not going to vote on a block on any of those things, but we're absolutely going to stand with the Capitol Police. Do they feel like those are the police officers that were keeping them safe as they were feeling so threatened the day on 1/6? Is anyone going to interrogate that?
And there's still, frankly, some unanswered questions about the extent of, the Capitol Police chief apparently, remember, did an interview with Tucker Carlson right before Fox fired Tucker Carlson, where he was going to say that, yes, there were a number of undercover officers, investigators among the crowd. I'm not shifting blame to those people necessarily, but we do know, as it emerged, for instance, in the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping, and it has emerged a lot of times, law enforcement's knowledge of extremist or militia group activity is pervasive. These groups are very closely monitored by our law enforcement. Law enforcement often works with them, sets them up, hires them, and pays them to go forward with criminal plots, as happened in the Gretchen Whitmer.
Or they just straight up set them up because they weren't even thinking about doing it in the first place until they brought it up.
There we go. Or law enforcement or some people at the Capitol incited the violence themselves.
Exactly.
Because we have videos of people just literally throwing, what is it called? These different bombs, pipe bombs, I guess.
Yeah.
Into the crowd.
They were actually set up the night before inside the building.
Yeah.
That's smoke grenade.
Smoke grenades. But we had another video of them just shooting.
And there's also one of Nancy Pelosi walking out with a bunch of people saying, we got to get back to finish the proceedings.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi's daughter went on record. That was a couple months old, telling the whole story. The daughter was actually advocating, showing that there was something very farce behind January 6th.
Matter of fact, speaking of all this, I sent you another video about it that goes into further detail about this exact topic.
Okay.
It's a 4 or 5 minute video.
Yeah. All right. Are we stopping these guys from talking?
For a moment. Yeah. Check that one out.
All right. So, guys, there was a lot happening that day. We're not saying we have all the reasons behind it. All we're saying is there were different groups involved. There were different intent. But to blame Trump for it all is a problem. It looks like there was at least 4 different groups that were there.
Mm-hmm.
One thing they're not talking about is the three-letter agencies. Some of them were present as well. Anyway.
So I have 2 new incredible videos to show you from January 6th. And frankly, you just have to see them for yourselves. And remember, the January 6th committee, your government did not want you to see these videos. And the media did not investigate this. Journalists did not do their job. They did not dig this stuff up. They told you a narrative. They showed you the videos they wanted you to see. And they ran with it and they hid the rest of these. Check out video number 1. So in the beginning of the video there, you saw a whole group of people being pushed into the Capitol building forcefully, almost like they were trying to get in, they were trying to barge in. But this is not the truth. What was happening is they were being pushed in from behind from this individual and possibly others. And then you can see zoomed in there, it looks like this individual has an earpiece. Now, of course, somebody could say it might be a Bluetooth or something else, but there does seem to be a wire there, and it does seem to be a bigger piece attached to the ear. And the lady is saying, stop. Stop. You pushed us in. Why would an individual who does seem to have an earpiece in their ear be pushing in a group of people into the Capitol, trying to force them in there? What is the purpose of this? Here is the video and here's the audio. And I think this.
Yes.
And the people inside were pulling them as the other people outside were pushing them.
I love how the truth comes out. I have a thing against the truth, right? He's slow. He is so slow to come out, but he always does, though. That is crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's not the only one.
This needs to be explained because they're telling you that those individuals barged in and broke in on their own, but that is not what the evidence is showing here. It is showing that an individual forced them to do so, and why. In my opinion, it looks like this person has some ulterior motives or is a part of some organization that's doing this. Is this a Trump supporter who just pushed everyone in there and is being yelled at by another Trump supporter? I mean, we really need to look at this stuff critically. Let's move on to video number 2.
You're on candid camera.
And look at his chest. You see what's on his chest?
Wait. Was there? Is that a gun?
No, that's a walkie-talkie. I used to work at Job Corps. We had walkie-talkies identical to that. They were long-range communication walkie-talkies.
Oh, wow. So obviously he's working for, the big guys. Mm-hmm.
And that's the earpiece he communicates through.
Do not go in there.
Oh, man.
Gee, go figure.
We watch our family. We like to binge watch Home Alone movie during the holidays, and I think actually we just got another TV. I mean, we got the TV for the first time in the house. We don't have TV here. Well, we have a TV. It's like a small. We finally got a big one, so our kids love watching Home Alone during the holiday. There's a scene in Home Alone when they, I think it's the Home Alone number 2, when the bad guys were in prison and they come out. They were in the back of a truck, and one of the bad guys says, "Hey, what do you smell?" And he got out and said, "Fish." And I say that to say this. I really smell something fishy right now.
Yeah, because if you look in front of his face, you see the antenna for the walkie-talkie.
Oh my Lord, this is good. This is good. He said, "Do you smell what I smell? I smell freedom." And he's like, "No, I smell fish."
Yeah. And why does he need his face covered up?
Good question. Good question. Is the point.
What's your matter?
Here we are, Marv. New York City, the land of opportunity. Smell that? Yeah. You know what that is?
Fish.
It's freedom.
No, it's fish.
It's freedom. And it's money.
Okay. It's freedom. Come on.
I smell fish. Oh man, somebody's been lying to us so bad.
What is going on here? Why is there an individual with an earpiece in his ear tearing the glass off of this? And then when the other guy is trying to tell him to stop, he pushes him, tells him to move back. Again, it just seems like this guy is a part of some sort of organized group, an organized system of people. I don't know what it is. Is it Antifa? Is it the federal government? Is it these ghost buses that were dropping off people? But to not investigate this is criminal. For the media not to care and not to look into this, for journalists not to do their job and to try to figure out what was actually going on here, for them to just lump everyone in, oh, these were just all Trump supporters. It's ridiculous. The evidence is not pointing to that. The evidence is pointing to a number of players that were planted into this group that looks like maybe they had organized together, maybe one group, multiple groups organized together, and they had a motive in mind to make something happen. And it looks like that thing happened. Shame on the media and shame on those who will not investigate this, and shame on the January 6th committee and the government who tried to hide this from you and try to tell you one thing and did not want you to see anything else. They wanted you to believe everything they said. They do not care about you. They want power, they want control, and they will do it by any means necessary. And I wouldn't doubt that they had involvement in this or they know about what's going on. There needs to be some real investigation into this. But, you know, we're talking about the government of the United States. Is that ever really going to happen? We have more people, independent companies, more people online, independent journalists doing a better job than any of our media sources is. I mean, shame on them. As I continue to see the video, I'll continue to put it out there to you. Some of you may have seen these two pieces of video before, but if I catch something and I'm like, you know what, I've seen this has been vetted now, there's really no explanation for this. No one's looking into it. I'll continue to show it to you guys. So leave your comments below. What do you think about it? Let me know. I'll catch you on the next one.
Good job. Good job, my man. You got a new subscriber. I'll tell you what. This is a problem, Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Here's part of my problem. I think it's good that this is coming out. And I know, like, he has done a great job. Tucker Carlson, also, he was way ahead of time. He was talking about this. Speaker McCarthy had given a few videos to Tucker. He didn't release all of it. You know, the question is now is,
where do we go from here?
Yeah. Where do we go from here? The facts are here. The evidence is here. Trump is still being investigated and indicted for all these different things. The videos are showing something completely different. What do we do with the facts?
Well, you know what the Democrats are going to do. They're just going to ignore it and move on.
Yeah, you're right. It seems like that's what they do. Every time they get caught, they just ignore the facts, move on like nothing ever happened.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. All right, you want to finish those two?
Yeah, that's almost done.
Okay.
More case. So again, I'm not asserting anything like that necessarily happened here, but it is not, you're not crazy or paranoid for wanting to understand more about law enforcement's awareness of what was happening and what their plan was in the crowd.
Sure, I'm also curious about the narrative building that Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing here, because she also referred to the I think it was, I can't remember if it was If Not Now or one of the other Jewish groups that did it. I think it was Jewish Voice for Peace, actually, who did the first event at the Capitol a few weeks ago following October 7th. And she referred to that as a kind of an insurrection. Oh, now the left is doing an insurrection. Right. So which is it? Is it that January 6th was cool, and so also the young Jewish kids who are protesting for peace in Palestine are also copacetic? Or are they all insurrectionist? Or is it only insurrectionist when it's people you don't like? Which is maybe what you could argue the Democrats are doing too. Yeah. But if you're someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is actively kind of defending January 6th protesters, does that really give you the standing to say that the completely peaceful protests that we saw in the rotunda that day by Jewish Voices for Peace was in fact
That's right. I mean, I think she was trying to point to the hypocrisy without action, but I mean, she
wrong.
Yeah, a coast on that, but
it was not completely peaceful.
Mm-mm.
They had to drag people out of there who were
Mhm.
kicking, fighting, and screaming at the top of their lungs.
Mhm.
Sorry, lady, but you need to get your facts straight.
I know she likes to play the. She likes to be the girl in the middle. I think. Remember last time he went crazy on her with the Israel and Hamas. He's like,
Hmm.
he said, "I don't give a blank." I was like, "Oh my goodness," he lost his mind. The thing is, she just likes to be, I guess, somewhere in the middle. The problem with that, you oftentimes you have to compromise your position sometimes because you have to ignore a lot of facts
Yeah.
and do that. Sometimes you just that's part of my issue with the rising the hill. They're very good at asking a lot of questions and stuff, but they don't seem to make a bold stand for anything. They're
No.
like they're not really standing for. It's like the truth is always like question, 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 question. It's like some things are not that complicated from my perspective. It's like you can see it for yourself. Like this is what they did, this is what they said, and this is what's really going on. Just point it out, call it out, and be done with it. They don't do a very good job at that, but they do help you to see things from different perspective. But I don't like them. That's part of the reason why I barely watch the Rising the Hill.
See, the
They,
thing
they
is,
play they play too much in a gray area. I have a problem with that.
January 6th was more like a forced tour group, whereas the Palestinian protest was a legitimate insurrection where they forced their way into the Capitol
Mm-hmm.
in protest and then had to be dragged out forcibly.
Yes. Yes. That was a form of an insurrection.
That's the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
With the new videos that are coming out and that are being shown, obviously people were being pushed in,
Mm-hmm.
they were being forced into the Capitol, and they were being escorted around the Capitol.
Mm.
Like, the two just don't compare to one another
Not exactly.
in any way.
Mm-mm. Not exactly the same thing at all. All right. Well, thank you for that. You know, the truth shall set us free, man. It's so sad because when the truth comes out, the narrative, the lies has already done its damage. Even though the truth came out, it's kind of like most people are already hooked on a lie. They're ready to defend the lie to the point of death, and it's kind of sad.
And that's what the Democrats are banking on as a court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm. It's dangerous, man.